Hello. I am Dr. Joni Dietrich, also known as Rajashree Maa, and welcome to Healing and Wisening with Rajashree Maa. So today I want to talk about karma as our teacher. So, karma is actually a very complicated topic, and I'm going to do my best to parse it out in a way that's meaningful and applicable to everyone. So, I think often in the West, particularly, we think of karma as simple cause and effect. I do this, and therefore that happens. And yes, karma is that. But karma it's actually much more complex and it's much more holistic, if you will. It's not just a simple, if you do this, that will happen, or if you say this, there will be this result. It's really about teaching us, showing us our own path to our personal and spiritual growth and evolution. So, also, we often think of karma as kind of like the enemy. Karma is going to get you. And here I'm talking about karma is going to teach you. And actually, karma will also help us because there is what we might call good karma and bad karma. We do certain things and the results are unpleasant. We do things, say other things, and the results are pleasant. But more than that, there are some circumstances and acts and behaviors that we can engage in that mm, slow us down from our spiritual path. And then there are those things we can engage in that move us forward in our spiritual path. Hi, this is Rishi. Rishi is a seer, and he's a delightful little um, presence in my life. He's good karma. Anyway, so understanding the whole of karma is so phenomenally complex. So let's just start, for example, with our birth. We come into this world on a particular day, particular month, a particular year. We come into this world with particular parents. We bring in a certain amount of genetic information that will not fully determine, but inform how our body, our mind, and even our personality will develop. So, all of this in yogic understanding is considered to be karma. So, where you're born, what country you're born in, what state, what city, what culture you come into, right? What what color you are at birth, and again, the community that you're born into, all of this is considered to be karma. It is, yes, the result of past circumstances, past lives, past behaviors, but you don't even have to believe in past lives to understand that in a certain way, the place that we're born is going to contribute to who we are in this world. It's going to impact how we respond to this world, and it's going to impact how we see ourselves and how we engage in the world. So that would be true about the place where we're born. It's true about the time that we're born. And of course, astrology is a whole field based on place and time of birth and is considered, to be very much related to our karma. But, think about it. Like, what generation were you born into? I was born into the baby boomers. I was born into the baby boomers in the US, and I had the opportunity to experience the hippie generation and the experimentation that was going on, the new attitudes towards sexuality and etc. back in my youth, right? And what generation were you born into? Are you a millennial? Are you Gen X? All of this determines a lot of who you are and your place in the world today. So, for example, I was born way before the internet. I was even born way before cell phones. Television was just coming into being when I was young. But for you, you may have grown up with the internet, with your personal devices, and etc. That, of course, has a profound influence on how you see the world and how you interact in this world. So, these factors that we don't feel like we have any control over, I mean, certainly our conscious mind doesn't choose when we're going to be born and into what generation and that kind of where we're going to be born at all. But there are other factors then that we would say that determine these things. And those factors are very much karmically related. Now, our karma is completely intertwined with the karma of our culture, the karma of our times, the karma of our family, our ancestors. There's some kind of karma, some kind of force. And by the way, the word karma actually only means action, but it's like a force. It's the karmic force. It's as real as gravity. Some people would call karma the gravity of our spiritual dimension. It orients us. It gives us a place. It allows us to operate in this space-time continuum as an individual being, as an individual person in our situation, right? There's karma for animals as well, who I would argue have their own person anyway. Um, so karma is, it can be ancestral. There was something that brought your mother and your father together, and they had at least one moment of loving union. Mm, Maybe in not all cases that union was loving, but in most cases. Something, however, there were forces in each of your parents' lives that brought you into this world at this time. And those forces in their lives have so many different determining factors, don't they? How did it happen that your mother and your father met each other? Was it under auspicious, wonderful circumstances or not such auspicious, wonderful circumstances? And what in their history, their karmic origins attracted them? And then we take that back and back and back, right? And then the parents of your parents and the parents of their parents and the parents of their parents. Um, And it goes back and back and back. And of course, it doesn't necessarily mean that you lived with your biological parents. You may have been adopted or fostered or, many, many things. But nonetheless, those biological origins have contributed greatly to who you are. Now, we could trace all this through science, right? And we could be talking about cells and cells uniting and what have you. But in the yogic understanding, the greater force behind all this is actually karma. And the purpose of karma is to help us along our spiritual evolution. And it may take this entire lifetime. It may take many tens of thousands of lifetimes to reach the pinnacle, if you will, of our spiritual evolution. And so the karma goes on and on and on. And then the understanding is the more good karma we have, it's like having well earned money in the bank, so to speak. The closer that we can come to our spiritual fruition, our enlightenment. But not only is there good karma, bad karma, there's neutral karma, and beyond that, there's no karma. And the understanding also in yoga is that when we reach that place of our spiritual enlightenment, there is no more karma. I would argue that there is no karma anytime we are in a place of awakened consciousness, anytime we're truly in present moment. So, for example, the principles of Kali Ki Reiki, which I teach, of course, and practice, are about being in present moment. Well, what does that mean? When we're truly in present moment, there is no past, there is no future. So, one of the principles of Kali Ki Reiki is in present moment, karma dissolves. Again, what does that mean? Well, if we're truly in the present moment, there's no past to haunt us, to disturb us, even to form us, to determine what we must be in this moment. All of that is cast aside. It dissolves when you're truly in present moment. When you're in presence, there's no past, there's no future. We often think of it as past, present, and future as if they're linear and in a line, but with present, right? True presence, they aren't there, past or future. So there's no past to be angry about, to hold a grudge against. There's no past to say, oh, I must do this or I must do that. There's just simply a being in presence. Similarly, right, when we're truly in present moment, we're not creating a future experience. We're not determining what's going to happen next. We just simply are present. That is the awakening experience, the enlightenment experience. Now, we can have moments of fully being present, but the minute the mind gets in, I shouldn't even say minute, the nanosecond in which the mind reappears, telling us about, well, I better hurry up, I've only got so much time, or, I've got other things to do. um, then we're no longer in present moment. So when you experience a Kali Ki Reiki healing, people often find that the past just drops behind, it just melts away. And so does the future. There's a complete coming into now, this, here, me. Not some idealized sense of self, and not some sense of self that I'm displeased with or can't get out of or feel bound by. Similarly, in meditation, all of that can also dissolve away, and we can be purely in present moment. If you don't meditate, if you haven't experienced a Kali Ki Reiki session, you've probably experienced, I'm sure you have, a beautiful sunrise, a beautiful sunset. You've been struck with awe in an experience of beauty or a spiritual experience in which for a moment time seems to stand still. There is only presence. And in that moment, all the past determining factors have dissolved, and all the future worries and sense of how things should be dissolves. This is true freedom. This is akarma, meaning in Sanskrit, no karma. This is a state that we want to uh, abide in as much as possible. And it's a very redeeming state, what Christians might call this is salvation, right? Because all our past sins are no longer relevant. They are, in essence, forgiven. And it does not matter what we do next. But let's get back to the whole idea of karma, because karma really it's like all these threads of experience, of history, of thoughts, of emotions, all these threads, and they tend to kind of tie together, bind together, and they become knots. This is particularly the case when we have a traumatic experience. So, whatever karma might have led up to this traumatic experience, it's not that we need to necessarily unravel that, but the karma leads up to it. There's a time of terror or horror or dismay or whatever, pain, injury, whatever it is. It's like there's this knot and it gets stuck, and the mind can't let go of it. The heart can't let go of it. And it binds us. And we begin to identify around our various traumatic experiences. We define ourselves often as a result of that, in feeling helpless, hopeless, abandoned, unworthy, ashamed, anxious, frightened. And these can be major traumas, they can be little traumas. Life is full of trauma. And these binds keep all the threads of our being from just kind of flowing smoothly through and around us. Instead, they tie us up in knots, literally. And this is karma that is showing us we need to release the knots. We need to flow freely. again. And so sometimes we need to do trauma work. We need to do a kind of releasing work. Yes, absolutely. But all these threads that have come together to create, form the person or the personality that we present to the world and we believe we are. It's like they've made something fluid into something solid. And what we need to do is refine our fluidity, our flow. Healing allows this. Meditation allows this. Simple contemplation, as I hope you're doing right now, can allow this. It can allow those knots to begin to untangle. I'm going to suggest an exercise for you. Sounds a little goofy, but if you have a nice chain, right, that you can spare, make some knots in it. Because I'm sure, if you've ever worn chains, you know how sometimes they can get all knotted up. So go ahead, make some knots in it or something else. Make some knots in it. And then slowly, slowly, slowly begin to untangle the knots. Okay, so if you're taking string, don't pull it so tight you can't get those knots out. But make lots of knots and then just take your time to slowly unknot it. Notice how satisfying that experience is. Sometimes it's frustrating at first, for sure, but kind of like once you get it and you begin to see what's looped here and what's looped there, pretty soon you're able to untangle it all. So we can do therapeutic work, energy healing work that helps us to untangle the karmic knots within us. And we can simply find present moment. The more they're untangled, the more we can see the different threads. Okay, so when you've just got a balled up mass, you don't see the threads, you just see this balled up mass. But as you untangle them, you can see them one at a time. And that's where the teaching is. So perhaps you begin to see that this experience that I'm stuck on, there's a thread in here of feeling unwanted. Let me unleash that and let it go. There's another thread in here of being fearful of life. Let me let that go. There's another thread of shame in my body. Let me unravel that one and let it go. These are our teachers. To learn that there is no reason to carry shame. You are not that. You have tied it up into your identity as a result of these various experiences, and it's all to show you that you are not that. Rather, you are this fluid being, and that fluid being that you are is love. It's the love force, the energy of divine love, of limitless love. Excuse me. And so, I want to tell you something. Hmm, In one of the Yoga Sutras, not the Yoga Sutras, but another one, uh, um, the tantric text called the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. It teaches that a sneeze can be the source of awakening because there is that moment in a sneeze of inevitability. I didn't want to sneeze here on this teaching, but it was inevitable. And the actual release of the sneeze is pure presence and pure joy. Also, I find sometimes when I'm healing, when I'm doing healing with someone, I will start to sneeze. And I have recognized that that's a releasing of karmic energy. It's a karmic release. And so I think that's what just happened. It's a physical way in which this karma that obstructs and prevents us from being truly in present moment can suddenly release. Great. All right, my dears, this was not exactly how I expected this teaching to go, but I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn something from it. And by the way, I can't just recommend that you start a practice of sneezing because most of us can't sneeze on demand. But there are those moments when there's a sudden shift and those knots release. Look for those moments. See them in the sunset, in the sunrise. Find them in a healing experience. Find them at the ocean, in the forests, in the arms of your beloved. Those moments are eternal, and they teach us what it is to be the limitless love that we are. Thank you. Namaste.